Well, hello, brilliant people. We're going to talk CRM, customer relationship management. Is that what it stands for?
It sure does.
So this tool is not the first time that we've talked about CRM on this podcast. Mitch, you've talked about it within context of like automated workflows, right? The patient journey. And we've kind of done like high level explanations. Let's start first with an explanation of what customer, or in our case, patient, right, relationship management means. Can you guys each give me your brief boilerplate description of what is a CRM? And let's start with you, Andrea.
Well, let's start with the patient journey. I know this is going to be a session where we focus more in on the technology, but I do want to keep it patient-centered, at least in the back of our minds, as we talk through the technological capabilities and what CRMs are enabling med spa practices to do. So from a patient journey standpoint, that journey begins at the first breath, that very first touch point of becoming aware that the med spa even exists, all the way through to conversion, retention, and evangelization. Now, some of the more philosophical marketers would correct me and say, not necessarily awareness of your med spa practice, but basically entering into that total addressable market. So they're eligible, they're aware of and interested in the things that your brand has to offer. Many would correctly argue that it starts up there. But in terms of what we're going to be able to execute on from a marketing standpoint, for all intents and purposes, our beginning point of that journey is going to be awareness of our brand as it addresses the needs that they've identified that we can serve.
And then that patient journey gets funneled all the way to a booking. And in the CRM, it actually doesn't stop there, right? There is a post-booking, essentially catalog, if you will, of opportunities, right? Or experiences that those patients can have within this tool. And
That's right.
And it manages all of those interactions.
That's true. And I glossed over some of the micro conversion steps on that patient journey.
But just to call out that the patient journey really does begin at this kind of very broad instance, and then gets kind of refined through a series of, again, interactions or workflows. How would you explain what a CRM is, Mitch?
Yeah, the way I typically explain it is it kind of manages everything from the process, like what Andrea was saying, prospect to patient, right? And then tacked on to, I like evangelism as well. I think that's a cool way of stating it, which is, one, we got to make sure that they get back through the door once they're in the door. And then also that we help them to share with their friends as well, right? And then start that cycle back over again. But really it's view to click to lead to booking to visit and then retention and kind of the system of tracking all of that.
Yes. I like to say that a CRM is both a system of record for that contact data as well as an orchestrator to actually facilitate those steps along the patient journey.
It's good.
Andrea, another thing that you like to say is marketing is everything the light touches.
I have said that, indeed.
And then CRM would be the database that is everything the light touches, maybe? Maybe you wouldn't say
Beyond that, I mean, it's also highly experiential. When I say that, that does mean that principles of marketing should bleed into operations and in-clinic experience as well. I mean, a multi-sensory sort of immersion into the brand. That's what I mean by that. But it's also applicable to how we apply the technology. So there's some very left-brained, not very exciting work that goes into the setup and configuration of a CRM. And even though the data structures and the processes and workflows that are built may not have any sort of brand specificity to it, you do want to bear in mind that through the execution steps, the substance of the communications that you're deploying through the CRM, whether it's an SMS, an email, or even trying to facilitate a call campaign, you want the brand to permeate through the touch points that the CRM may be the vehicle that's triggering.
Yeah. Man, that's bringing up a whole lot of ideas on like, how do we approach how bespoke the strategy is within a CRM versus how consolidated / templatized the approach is. But I'm going to hold on that and kind of still stay high level. What would you say a CRM is not that most people think or want it to be?
A chore.
Well, that's a great. Wasn't thinking you're going to go there with that.
It was uncharacteristically brief and concise.
But let's unpack that. So, what do you mean by CRM? The CRM is a chore.
This is not just applicable to this industry. Anytime you have sales teams who are trained up and beholden to updating their lead records in the CRM, they feel like it's a manual, tedious effort. They feel like someone's looking over their shoulder and making sure that they're doing the task in the first place, doing it on time. Are they saying the right things? Are they doing it the right way? And it can just feel a little bit harrowing to people who maybe aren't as accustomed to either doing that in the first place if they're new into that type of role, or it's just maybe they haven't had that level of enforcement. But that is how a CRM needs to be maintained to make it successful. And there's a lot more we can say about that on how to alleviate that. The other issue that you'll run into is if the training hasn't fully addressed the questions that they may have, they may feel like they're in this vague environment where they don't understand their contributions to the overarching goals of the system.
Yeah, I think users need to input to make it work, right? Like it's all a good in theory thing to have something that shows this entire patient journey, because we're always asking questions is like, where is the opportunity? Where should we invest our dollars? How should we approach this channel differently than this channel? And how does that all get informed? It has to be informed by data entry. It's not something that is, and that's again, not the guy who knows the CRM as intimately as you guys do, but I think about my answer to this question being more in the context of that it doesn't run by itself.
Yeah.
Like it requires multiple points of entry throughout the day. And actually its ability to do well for you, for a practice, is inherently tied to your using of it. It's a tool that sits on a shelf before it is a tool that is actually, helpful, right?
Yes. And there are certainly some things that can be done from a configuration standpoint, ways of setting up the UI to make it more visibly evident what a person's individual contributions in the system, the sum, the aggregate of all of those activities, what that means for the patient journey, and also having data visualizations, whether that's natively available in the CRM or otherwise immediately accessible through a known reporting environment that they can easily consult. Just contextualizing it for users can go miles in adoption and overcoming training hurdles, because it just gives them that understanding of how their contributions are making meaningful impact to the bottom line.
Love that. Mitch, you.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head as it relates to, we can make the best system on the planet, but it still has to be operated within. And so operations inherently is involved in this process. And I think one of the biggest rubs that I have experienced, because I've done this 14 times now, onboarded 14 partners into a CRM. And so I've done all the training, onboarding, technical support, all that stuff. So I'm very well involved in that process. And some of the exciting pieces that I hear from partners is, the exciting part about coming onto a CRM is that it's all in one spot. Like a lot of times they have team members that are trained in different kind of avenues of lead capture. Maybe the website form goes to the clinic managers. I've even seen it go to the actual owner. Front desk staff obviously picks up the phone. Maybe social media manager manages the DMs. The beauty of a CRM is that it all gets consolidated into one spot. But then you've also got this operational piece in it where they have to operate within that structure that you've created, and it's changed from the structure that you had before. And it has to be done in a certain way. There also feels like you got Big Brother watching you. So there's a lot of aspects to it. And the other piece is the aspect of, if I spend 10 grand on marketing, most of the time, most practices have had no idea how much money they've made back. And the CRM fixes that issue as long as you have set it up correctly. So that's another thing that's really exciting. But again, that also requires somebody going in and actually manually tracking those things. So I think those are some of the friction points.
So for Alpha, we have one of the reasons, one of the benefits to being part of this partnership is we have a CRM solution that has been modified and tailored and had all of these customizations. And again, not getting into the how bespoke do we go with our CRM, but again, the benefit is that our Alpha-wide CRM solution is informed by the great practices that we support.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys share, and again, we'll start with you, Andrea, can you share how we go about prioritizing and what we prioritize in terms of our CRM? What is it that we look for? What are the instances that we are excited about and really lean hard into when it comes to our CRM build?
That's a big question, so I'll try to keep the answer as focused as possible. So one of the things that we could have an entire episode about is the data standardization and just making sure that we're capturing attribution details and activity details on our contact records and the associated opportunities on those records in a consistent way so that it all does flow through to consolidated, consistent reporting. So
yeah, Andrew, so share like why that is important. And you kind of mentioned like, so it flows into consolidated, consistent reporting, but why is attribution, that is probably the least sexy part of a CRM, right? Like,
how dare you?
Why is that so important to us?
Because when you're spending, I don't want to disclose specific numbers, but large sums of money on paid ads, you want to know the downstream revenue generated off of those so you can back that into a return on ad spend and determine where to right-size the investment into these channels accordingly. And when you lose that attribution, you're flying blind, or at least half blind, as the case may be. And it can have dire financial consequences that can be difficult to unwind. So doing that at least makes not just the reporting go more smoothly, but the subsequent analytics on that to make sure that you are running your marketing to drive the best financial results. And also it can inform the way that operations will collaborate with marketing on various initiatives. If you have lack of clarity or incomplete attribution on what you're doing, it can muddy the waters in those conversations as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Mitch, same question to you. What is it that we prioritize at Alpha? Again, partnership wide, and what we look for in our CRM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, standardization across the board is one huge thing. We all operate within one CRM, so it's one system, one training system, which makes it easy for us. It also on the back end, when it relates to data, having it be unified, for example, with what happens on the EMR side, we're working to get everybody within the same ecosystem of EMRs so that you can get your customer relationship management system integrated with your EMR system where all the transactions happen. Then you get ROI matched together. So that's a huge deal. Obviously, I'll echo what Andrea also said as it relates to attribution, making sure that it's set up and everything is attributed, because if you can't see if a lead came from, whether it's an online booking or a call or a form submission, if any of those came from Facebook or from Google, maybe you're spending a lot of money on Facebook, a lot of money on Google. You have to know how much your cost per acquisition is. The only way to do that is through setting up attribution. And by attribution, we also mean like, UTM parameters and some of that more like nitpicky stuff for those that are listening that actually know kind of what those pieces are. The pixels, the offline conversion events, all of those things are critical.
How do you, I'll kick this back to you, Mitch. How do you dance back and forth between the high level strategies that impact all practices and then drilling all the way down to engagements to inform where the opportunities are to tighten up this whole system?
I think that the data that you have available is something that's critical when you're making the decisions for a long time, especially when you're operating with the crux of alpha is integration, right? And so we have to get all of these different people on different systems into one place so that we can actually see the data and then make the educated decisions. So we always have a process of offboarding and then onboarding into new systems. But once everything is fully there, one of the biggest things is like, for example, what we're trying to crack the code on is if a patient came from Facebook, they came in from XYZ offer, they came in with this image with this particular ad copy. And then when they came in, they saw Susie as a provider. Susie's fantastic. Her retention rate is fantastic. Then, maybe a lead that wouldn't have closed because they're not as high quality actually can close much higher because we brought them to Susie, and then Susie brings them back and the retention rate is fantastic. Like that thread is something that we're trying to get to, and we're getting close. But that, I think, is the gold standard.
So Andrea, this tool that shows all interactions at the portfolio level, again, Mitch said, like one tool, everybody is operating inside of it, means that we're all reading from the same playbook. How do you take that tool and take the data that we see in the tool, and how does that translate to marketing strategy for each one of our partners?
So the workflows fundamentally will have the same underlying goals. Even if we go in and make some slight modifications to the exact execution. For example, we've talked before about our missed call text back programs. We can also deploy automations to patients who are lapsed, or maybe they have churned and we're trying to execute a win back type of offer. A lot of that can be done programmatically, and you can have automatically applied criteria to enroll them dynamically into these workflows as soon as those triggering criteria are met. So I think that having a system that unlocks automations where it makes sense is really powerful, so that you can thoughtfully do the manual work where you do want to take a more bespoke approach to reaching a certain audience with a certain offer.
Yeah, I think that the power of the CRM has been this one button to like copy paste all of the automations from one site to the next. And then to your point, then kind of tailor and all the different things that need to be specified at this location. But that's an example of something super sexy, right? It's like, hey, now that you've joined Alpha, click. All this is set up and ready to go. And I think sometimes that's what gets promised in the sales pitch of a CRM tool is that like you can do anything, and we'll take it one step further. Alpha, we already have this robust solution that is already baked in. And so from the outside, that looking in, that sales pitch is like, dude, that's pretty exciting. That it's that easy that it just goes. And like we said from the top of this conversation, the rub is that it still requires this input. It still requires somebody to be responding to, interacting with all of these workflows. It's not totally automated. Can I ask why isn't it automated? Like, why couldn't it just be click and go? Mitch, why? AI in the world of AI. Why can't it just be like,
Yeah.
done?
I mean, I do think that we're headed to always advancement looks like more automation, but I think that the piece we have to be cautious of too is not losing the personal touch in the midst of that. And I think that different practices, different demographics, different patient bases, different coasts, I mean, they want more personal touch than others. Some, like especially younger demo, like I don't really want to pick up a phone and call somebody necessarily. I just want to have an online booking link, get it done, go through. But if I've also seen studies, our own personal studies that we've done, where if you have a completely automated system, the commitment level is far less because you never got that emotional connection point either. Fully automated booked system had a significantly lower or increased cancellation rate and no-show rate than when they actually picked up the phone and made a personal connection with someone. So there's some cons in that regard. There's always the trade-off of personal touch equals higher commitment, also requires team capacity. And so whether or not you want to have like a well-oiled machine from an automation standpoint, but have no personal touch is also kind of something that we collaborate with the practices on too. Because some want a single automated text, no others. It's handed off to them after and they handle it and they have a great conversion rate because they prioritize it and do it really well. But then there are also ones that are like, no, I want this thing fully automated. Give me an AI bot. I don't want to even like think about this until they're in my chair. Like that's how some people are wired too. And not just personal preference, it also can be what their patients want. That also can dictate it. But it also is a capacity thing too. Sometimes they don't have the capacity for it.
Oh, what a great response. I've been sharing, personally with friends, and you guys have heard me say this a lot, perhaps, but that in our AI day and age and what we ask systems to do and what we really want in our life, what I really want is I want to be around people. Like somehow the systems I want them to do everything for me, but then I also want them to get out of the way so that I could engage. And when we look at business as ultimately distilled down to like people interacting and providing service, like it comes down to that question, right? Of like, just as much as you want the system to do everything for you, do you really want the system to interact with people for you? And there's a great lift with that. And there's many reasons as to why you make trade-offs. But I think that's, I don't know. That's really powerful. I also think about, and as we kind of land the plane here, because again, as you've mentioned, Andrea, we could go so many different ways and really drill down into, how we have customized the patient journey and the data that we're looking at. So we've been building websites and also supporting all of, our web traffic, if you will, all inside the CRM. And part of this, as you mentioned, is like operations. Us working together. Marketing is everything the light touches. So we've been having this conversation while also referencing that there are other members in the room that are really important. A whole department of operations. What do we do with these leads as they work their way through the journey? How do we make sure that the handoffs that take place with people, right? As it is a system that is requiring people input and somebody is making their way through the system, which is a person. How do we make sure that people and leads don't fall through the cracks?
It's funny because I feel like this is full circle. We started off with Andrea, you saying that a CRM can sometimes feel like Big Brother is watching, which is the con to it, or maybe a pessimistic view. But the other piece is that it opens eyes to opportunities. And that I think is the biggest shift that's important when, there is maybe a fear of Big Brothers watching. It's like, okay, well, we want to grow. We want to all grow together. And if our speed to responding to a lead is 30 hours, that's an opportunity. And maybe it's not just your fault. It's like everybody. Like, how do we rally and make sure that the collective patient experience is better because we're actually responding to our patients faster and in a more efficient manner. And if you don't have the CRM with all of that data right in your face, you don't even know. At the end of the
Flying
day,
blind.
yeah, at the end of the day, like, we have to prioritize that patient experience. And if we do, then everybody wins. And there are aspects on the marketing, like maybe we're running offers that are attracting the wrong patients, and we won't know that unless we actually have data that's coming back, that's being entered by ops and by the people on the front lines who are doing the front desk and actually interacting with these people. And if we don't have that, if we don't work collectively, then we can't actually effectively be a team together.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, Andrea, you talked about attribution, which I feel like is by nature of the question, like kind of the same thing, right?
Yep. It's important beyond just the marketing optimization. So not just the marketing source attribution, but offer attribution, and having contacts properly tagged in the system
Yeah.
so that as a lead is being worked, there's an understanding from the outset. It's front and center what offer they were exposed to, if any. And then you're going to facilitate that conversation accordingly and make sure that they are booked for the service or services that align to the offer that they saw. And of course, however your conversation went, you just want to make sure that they're getting the experience based on the expectation that was set from the marketing, advertising through the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is data that's being captured along the way to ensure that that gets fulfilled correctly. And then at the point of visit, that should also be carried over. And to Mitch's point, we need to just complete that feedback loop to make sure that we understand the efficacy of the offer and whether or not was it even something that we operationally could fulfill as designed.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's got ideas for how we can improve marketing. And I get it. Like, I do too. Like, there's no shortage of good ideas that are out there. The problem is often if you don't have the data in front of you to explain what's actually happening, then you're operating off of assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of attribution keeps on surfacing, and like that to me is like one of the most core ingredients to all of this is like, where did this person come from? And of course the CRM should be able to say that, but with the amount of sources that are out there and the amount of noise, and I can see how that can be a challenging project in and of itself, and also awfully misleading, because with all of our ideas often start from a place of bias of what channel. Like, man, my Instagram is popping off. I don't know if that's what they actually say, but like, man, my Instagram is popping off. I get so many leads. I have so much activity that comes through my Instagram. Like, I just need to, boost my posts there. And if the data isn't actually showing that, right, then what? Then what's your conclusion?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think of, again, this idea of what the CRM is, and it not being a chore, but it being something that captures, stewards, and shares where people are at, opportunities, a system of refinement, a system of marketing orchestration. I think of it being the leveling playing field to having a conversation of what to do with your marketing dollars.
Mm-hmm.